Oh, they scream, oh, they scream, oh, they scream. Hey, Reds fans, welcome to another edition of We Love Our Team. My partner, Randy Freaking, and I are happy to welcome you, and we are honored today to have as our guest Jim Borgman. Jim is a native Cincinnatian who served as the editorial cartoonist for the Cincinnati Enquirer from 1976 through 2008. He won the Pulitzer Prize in 1991 and the NCS Rubin Award in 1993. Since 1997, he's illustrated the cartoon strip Zits, which is syndicated in over 1,500 newspapers around the world and is translated into 9 languages, including German, Chinese, Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese, Finnish, and Polish. Unbelievable. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks.
We are here today to talk about your Reds fandom. First things first, we need to keep our priorities in order. And again, we're so happy you're here. And one of the questions, well, thanks again. One of the questions we ask our guests is how that fandom was achieved, how that was developed. Now, I know that I think in your case, growing up in Price Hill in the 1950s and 60s, the question would be, how could you not be a Reds fan? I think
that's right. You're born into it, like Catholicism or something. It is part of your family, part of your culture, and I don't have the vaguest idea that anybody ever tried to make me a Reds fan. But the game was on, Wade Hoyt was on in our house. And I can remember Sundays around the TV when they show the games. That was a big deal when they televised a game back then. You guys remember?
Yeah.
And you only ever saw any other team outside of your own local team when they played each other, because what was it? We were maybe teenagers before they ever started showing a Saturday game of the week of 2 other teams, and that seemed so exotic and rare to see the White Sox playing the A's or something like that. You only knew those guys from baseball cards.
Exactly. I remember going down to Findlay Market one Saturday with my dad, and we were in a big hurry to get home because the Oakland A's and Reggie Jackson were going to be on the NBC game of the week, and I know that it's so foreign to the younger generation that how little content we really have. But not to sound like 3 old men here, but that's true.
We had newspapers, Jack. That's about it.
We had newspapers. That's right. Was so your dad was a pretty big fan, I take it.
Dad was a fan. My dad was a sign painter, and a lot of his work he would do in our garage. And so when I was a little kid, after dinner, we'd put on our pajamas and go down to kiss Dad goodnight, and he'd still be painting signs down in the garage, and the garage door would be open. And, I'm remembering it as a summer night, with the crickets and such outside, and Wade Hoyt on the radio, an old beat up radio with paint splatters all over it, there on his workbench. And I can hear it right now, and I can stand in that garage door in my mind and just feel all that feeling, the burger beer commercials, and wait, if it was raining, and everybody loved those rain delays, he'd go off talking about the old 27 Yankees or whatever. And you just somehow absorb that stuff when you're a kid. It was such a big deal to get to go to a game from time to time. My dad,
That's our studio audience, Jim. That's our studio audience. They're art in control.
That's good for them. I was going to tell you, my dad would come home. He also worked down at a shop and painting signs and painting trucks. And he would come home or call my mom, I guess, in the afternoons. And he'd always said some guy from work gave him tickets. I never knew who that guy was. But Mom would call us out from the backyard and say, get your homework done because Dad got tickets for tonight's game. And so, that was so exciting. and whoever they were playing, it didn't matter. Tom and I, my brother, would get our stuff done and be ready for Dad to pick us up. And then just that thrill of going into Crosley Field, everybody talks about it, that seeing that grass for the first time through the portal. And then smelling the cigar smoke and crunching the peanuts under your shoes and all that. It's just so real to me. And sometimes there have been eras of my life when I don't even follow the details of the game that much, but to have it on in the background is just sort of the soundtrack of life. And I have a job where a lot of my brain is available to listen to things while I'm drawing, and to always have a ball game on MLB.com changed my life, because not only could I be in Colorado and follow the Reds in every detail, but we got a 2-hour time difference, and if the game was over, I'd listen to the Giants, and John Miller and those guys broadcasting those games. And I'm really wandering, guys, but I came to get to where my favorite teams had a lot to do with who was their announcer. I love Tom Hamilton up in Cleveland, and John Miller and Dwayne Kuiper out in San Francisco and that. So anyway, you get me going and I'll keep talking.
It's a universe.
Jim, that's funny you say that, because Chris Berman on ESPN always said, baseball is the one sport where you just kind of have it on in the house. You're doing all sorts of different things, but it's always on the background. Mm-hmm. And you kind of pay attention when you think you need to pay attention.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And at the end of the night, Suzanne says to me, "Who won?" I think it was the Nationals. I don't know.
My wife thought I was crazy this fall, but MLB had some of the playoff games on with the Spanish announcers, and I would listen to it, and it was awesome. I mean, I'm watching the game, so I knew what was going on. I mean, if I had listened to it on the radio, that might have been a different story, and they would get so excited, and a home run was just, there's something they would say on a home run, and it's escaping me, but the excitement was just palpable, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is great. I would watch this instead of English, because the emotion is just so strong." It was
I hear you.
And it's interesting, Jim. I think we've been blessed really in Cincinnati with really good announcers. I mean, Wade Hoyt, obviously kind of a legend. And, for the younger listeners to our podcast, Wade Hoyt was a Hall of Fame caliber pitcher for the New York Yankees, and was on the 27 Yankees. So was teammates with, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and that sort of thing. But he really was adopted by Cincinnati because he called the games on the radio for so long. But then, we went into Al Michaels, Marty, forever. And I really, I was laid up a couple of summers ago and actually spent about a month in the hospital. I couldn't get baseball games on TV, so I listened to the radio, and I enjoyed the Cowboy, Jeff Brantley and Tommy Thrall, and it was just fun to listen to a 9-inning game. I mean, it's a whole different experience than watching it. You conjure up the images, and certainly, there's just the language of baseball. I mean, when somebody says 6-4-3, we know exactly what that is.
Yeah,
it's like that old joke about the listeners.
Yeah, it's definitely a radio.
But we have been lucky. So when you were playing knothole, you played knothole, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Who was your team? Do you remember your team?
Say it again.
Who was your knothole team? Do you remember who you played for?
Team. Well, it wasn't technically knothole, or maybe it was called knothole. Yeah, it wasn't Little League.
Right.
I played for St. William, my elementary school, and I only played organized ball in 7th and 8th, maybe 6th and 7th and 8th grade. I didn't have the guts to try in high school. I would kind of wish I had, but I wasn't that good, frankly. I was big. At that time, I was the tallest kid in my class. and because I would throw a rubber ball against a wall constantly, I developed a pretty strong arm. And so I was the pitcher, and I was wild. And I threw a 2-hitter at one point against Resurrection, and my future college roommate was on that team. So we kid each other about that a lot.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Did you
have a favorite? Did you have a favorite player growing up, Jim, or set of players?
Jim Maloney, number 46. I don't know how much folks remember him anymore, but to me, he was in virtually the same class as Juan Marichal and Bob Gibson and Koufax, or maybe just if I was naming 4, he'd be the 4th one in that litany. And I just thought Maloney was all that. And I was lucky. I didn't ever get to sort of choose games. I ended up going to games when it fell my way. You're a kid. But I was in the bleachers with a friend and his dad when Maloney threw his 10-inning no-hitter and lost to the Mets. I want to say in the 11th inning. And I'm not good at details, but I think a guy named Johnny Lewis hit a single. Or maybe somehow maybe there was a single and then a home run or something like that, but they lost, and it was late at night. You're a little kid, and it's extra innings, and it might be 11 o'clock at night, and it's a school night, and you're kind of. I was kind of worried about all that, but I got home and Mom put me to bed. And then the next morning, my dad was sitting on the edge of my bed with the Enquirer newspaper, and he showed me a picture and he said, Jim Maloney looks like he lost his last friend. He just had the saddest look on his face after the game. But all these things are so vivid, aren't they? When those games when we went to as kids.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And, now we look back, and I think I heard Jim Maloney speak one time, which was just a treat. He's a great guy, and he's just got lots of funny stories and a pretty compelling personal life too, post baseball. But I think he said in that game, he might have thrown like 187 pitches or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, it was just
and no pitch counts, Jack.
No pitch counts.
I have to tell you a story. I met Maloney finally about 3 years ago. So my brother, Tom, now lives outside of Phoenix. And so I always try to visit him in March, right, for spring training.
Yeah.
Tom's boyhood friend is Mark Stowe. And of course, the Stowe family. Mark is like the visiting team's clubhouse guy, right? And, integral to running the Reds, equipment and such. So Mark, who just a big-hearted guy, always welcomes Tom and I to come behind the scenes at spring training if we are there. And I've done it 3 or 4 times now. And the Reds will invite back former players just to mingle, I think. I don't know what else they're there for, but they're there. And there was Jim Maloney one year, and I got tipped that Mark told us he was going to be there. So I brought my old Maloney baseball cards and stuff. And I tell you, I was quaking inside to walk up to the guy. And I said to him, I just got to tell you that when I was 6 years old, I would get up on a summer morning and get my glove and my rubber ball, and I'd stop down at the refrigerator and I'd pick out a chunk of chipped beef and stick it in my cheek like it was tobacco. Then I would go out and pitch against a stone wall, pretending I was Jim Maloney, and my mom knew that was you were my hero, and she cut out and sewed a number 46 on my T-shirt. And he said, did you ever go on to play ball? And I said, not much beyond that time. He said, yeah, it was when she put that 46 on your shirt that you were screwed.
So you never drew a cartoon of Jim Maloney, it sounds like.
I don't think I ever did. No, it didn't come up in the news.
It's funny. I've got over my shoulder, Jim, one of your buddies, Chris Payne's painting of the of some of the all-time great Reds. He did not include Maloney. That would have been a good ad on there. But
I see Klazuski, and I think I see Sparky.
yeah,
I know that's a beautiful piece. Chris is big. You should have him on your show. He's great. He's a great baseball fan. Great Red.
yeah. He well, Cincinnati has had a lot of great illustrators. You and Chris and Warren Long, and it's a kind of an amazing little group that you guys all wound up in Cincinnati together.
We're one generation, but you also think about Tom Suchia, who is the sculptor who's done all those great pieces outside Great American Ballpark. And now, you may know, sculpts the reliefs for the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. All
didn't know that.
He is the guy who does that. So, and Tom used to visit my office when I was at the Enquirer, and he was a high school kid, and he was interested in art, and he came down and visited me. We got to know each other back then, and then to go and see what he's gone on to do has been amazing.
Jim, I really love your cartoons. You know, I've loved your cartoons all my life. We've got a little book here at our house with a lot of probably your favorites. And I particularly liked your ones of Pete Rose. But was there a particular Red that you like to illustrate the most? Something about their features that made it easier or harder?
Well, you named him. You know, Pete Rose had an iconic face and that sort of stone-like build, you know, a rock-solid look about him, and just a really great face to draw. I love drawing Pete, and wish I could have drawn him just, you know, with idolatry all his life. But you know, as we all know, there were many chapters to his life. In my mind, it'll always be him on the field that I think of and still love and wish was in the Hall of Fame. But
you've got a couple. I know you've got a couple of him being asked by Babe Ruth for his autograph. You've got a cartoon where Babe is listing all of his stats and asking for his autograph.
Yeah.
And then you've got another one where he's racing past Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
And Cobb is saying, "Can I have your autograph?"
Yeah. I mean,
how did you get into drawing cartoons?
I always was a drawer. I was that kid in class who could draw, and kind of wished I could be a writer. Frankly, wished I could be a novelist, and went all the way into college thinking, no, I'm gonna be a novelist. But it was apparent to everybody who knew me that I was going to be a cartoonist, and because I was always drawing my teachers or drawing album covers, Paul Simon or what, you know, all that off of anything, and it was just natural for me to do caricatures and to entertain my friends with you know, drawing our teachers and stuff like that. And I don't know, I think now that I know a lot of cartoonists, I realize that's pretty much the common story for all of us. We were headed there whether we knew it or not. And then at some point or other, you get this, the word, oh, you can make a living doing that. There are people who are paid to do this. Oh, that's interesting. Mad Magazine. Yeah, those guys don't do that for free. They draw. That's their job. Wow. So that was when it began to hit me, and really in college. And I started drawing school papers, or started drawing cartoons for the school paper about things that were going on at Kenyon College, little college in the center of Ohio. And at the time, there was a big controversy because we weren't allowed to have pets on campus. And a security guard shot a cat. And, you know, but I mean, sorry for the cat, but what a weird funny thing. So I did a cartoon about that, and the whole college seemed to applaud. And so it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I could maybe get into this. So from then I started taking it seriously, and I applied to the Inquirer way before I was ready to do anything in front of a big audience, but they liked me. And I came home to my hometown newspaper after I graduated, and then I stayed there for 32 years in that same dead-end job, never got a promotion.
Well, you did a series called Wonk City, correct?
Oh, that's true. Wow, you really did homework. Nobody knows that.
Well, I think it was in the Washington Post.
It was, yeah. I had some connections at the Post, some people who liked my work, and Meg Greenfield, the editor there, asked me if I wanted to do a once-a-week series about inside Washington, which is sort of hilarious to think that I was doing that from Cincinnati. But, I was when you're a political cartoonist, you are steeped in the news up to your neck every day. And so even though your cartoon might be about one story, you're keeping up with everything that you can. And so you do get a start to a feel, or at least a comic feel, for how things work in Washington. And so that's what Wonk City was. Yeah, I did.
It's funny you say that, Jim, because, and it's probably just me because I'm a sports nut and the Reds nut. I do remember your East Side, West Side cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
But I seem to remember the sports cartoons. And I was actually going to ask you that. Do you think you did more political or more kind of social cartoons, I would call them, about sports?
That's a great question, Randy. I think by number, certainly more political. But, I started somewhere along my career realizing that, yeah, politics is important and we need to follow it to be good citizens, but there's a whole world out there that that you can comment on. And I loved thinking about how things in the news really drifted down into our daily lives, into our houses, our dining room tables. And so I often did cartoons about just Joe Sixpack and his wife, commenting on something or other that had to do with the news. I loved drawing them. I felt like I knew what the inside of Cincinnati houses looked like, and what the front porches looked like, and what us, dumpy people, I'm talking about me, looked like. Those are the ones that people sort of took to their hearts, I think, because I was saying, not in so many words, I'm paying attention to us. I'm paying attention to our lives. And yes, we love sports. And when there was an opportunity or an excuse to draw about the Bengals or Marge Schott or, you name it, I did it. I love doing those. And I think, outside of Cincinnati, I'd be known more for political cartoons and now for the comic strip. But inside Cincinnati, I think it was those ones about the cicadas and the humidity and the Reds and all that people took me into their hearts for.
Your eye for detail, Jim, was just amazing. I was looking through your book, your 25 years at the Enquirer book, to get ready for the podcast, and there's a cartoon in there. These two older women are standing on the corner of Glenway and Sunset because you had the street signs, and this woman's holding a sign that says Cheviot, and she says, this transit strike is really starting to frost my shorts. And it was just, but not everybody would put the street signs up there. They have Glenway and Sunset. You probably have to be from the west side of Cincinnati to totally appreciate that cartoon. With the Cheviot sign, I mean, that just.
Oh, I love it that you noticed these things.
I also really like your obituary cartoons. I mean, they were sad because obviously somebody had died. Some of them, my God, the Ryan White, which was, I think, one of your Pulitzer submissions. But yeah. I saw one with Klazuski where he was walking in through the pearly gates, wearing his angel wings and his gown, but his angel gown, the sleeves were cut off, and he had the big biceps. I mean, it was just,
Yeah,
it was just
yeah. His wife got in touch with me, and I was really happy to hear that it had been like a comfort to her, that drawing.
Oh, that's great.
A lot of people commented on that. I think people love Big Clue, even I didn't see him as a player, but I saw him as a coach.
Yeah. When all the players used to credit him. I remember Perez. He'd be like, "Well, I talked to Clue," and like adjusted his swing or whatever. Now I want to talk about the absolute highway robbery that occurred at the 1974 Banner Day, Jim. How you came in second place astounds me. Maybe you should tell our listeners what Banner Day was.
You're funny, Jack. Well, okay, so that is a story. Let me tell you. Back in the day, we're talking about the mid-'70s. I'm a high school kid. My girlfriend and I, Kathy Thompson, decided we really wanted to do Banner Day. They just started this thing, and the concept was fans could make banners, and between games of a certain doubleheader, you would be invited to come down and line up in the bowels of the stadium and then march out onto the field together, holding our banners, displaying them for the crowd and such. And there would be a contest to give a first, second, and third prize, I think. So, wow, we were excited. We did it all, I think, 3 years. And I think we got a second place once, or maybe a third. I don't remember. Looking back, that doesn't matter. But what mattered was this. It was this in 73, I think, that Banner Day was in August. The Reds were going to play the Dodgers. The Reds were expected to do well that year, but they were just kind of not performing real well. Dodgers were ahead of them. It's a pennant race, but okay, so Banner Day arrives, and we have worked for weeks on this banner. It said "Hours in October," and it had caricatures. Looking back, even, I'd say pretty good caricatures I'd done of Bench and Morgan and Perez and Rose and all of them. And darn it was good, if I may say so. So we're excited. And we got this banner rolled up, on pole on each end, and it's rolled up under our seats. And in the first game, around the fifth inning or so, the Reds are losing. And they call over the loudspeaker, "Anybody who's here for Banner Day, line up down here in the bowels of the stadium out in the outfield there." So we rushed down there. We were first in line. And of course, down there, you don't know what's going on. You hear these muffled sounds from the stadium, but there's no view of the field or anything. And we're just completely in the dark, but we're okay. We're excited about our banner. Well, the moment comes, and they throw open the outfield fence doors, and all of us begin walking out onto the field, and we're first. And the crowd is going nuts. The crowd is going crazy. Everybody's on their feet. They're cheering. And it goes on, and we're thinking to ourselves, whoa, we are really good at this. Really excited about this banner. Well, it turns out this was a historic game when Hal King, the third string catcher for the Reds, had come up in the bottom of the ninth inning and hit a 3-run homer to win the game. And even at the time, Al Michaels, who I think was the announcer, apparently said, "This feels like the game-changing moment of the season." And it was.
Yeah.
They won that game. They went on to win the second game of the doubleheader. I think they won the next 8 out of 9 or something like that after that. And it was a historic moment for the Reds. And we thought they were cheering our banner the whole time.
That was an iconic home run, and I thought that maybe was where your story was going. So that was Joe Borgman had the best quote. I think it was during that season. The Reds were still in second place, but coming on, and he said the Dodgers are chasing us.
Oh,
and it was great. It was just Beautiful.
That's
I
perfect.
I did banner day mainly because I wanted to be on the. It was just the opportunity to walk on the field. I mean, so my banner was not in the running. It was, but I will tell you what, it was no drawing. All it was my own handwriting, and the marathon had a campaign, an ad campaign. They had this song, "Here's to the boys, bless them all." And I just wrote on my sign, "Here's to the Reds, bless them all," which I thought was really clever. But then when I saw the kinds of competition down there, but as I said, the main thing was just to be able to walk on the AstroTurf. This is great.
And it was thrilling, wasn't it? There were, there's so many promotions now where you could get down on the field, and run the bases and stuff. But back then, that was really rare. You couldn't get down on the field for any reason.
Not at all. It was a huge deal. And plus, you got to see 2 games for the price of 1, which was, for us. Well, that's great. Do you still have your old baseball cards? You still have your old baseball cards?
I will show you. I got this down off the wall to show you. I know your listeners can't see it, but this is my collection of my favorite year of cards. I think it was 64. 63 Topps cards, and I put all my Reds cards that I still had down here. There's a few down at the bottom from other years, but wow. I just love that it had the big purple Reds across the top, and then I think I got most of them except there were a couple small, lesser players that I don't have, but my brother and I collected baseball cards and kept them in a cardboard suitcase, and my mom did not throw them out like every other mom I've ever heard. So we had them, and I finally entrusted them to Tom, and he sent me some back, and he's got some others now.
That's awesome.
It was a great year when all those iconic players were there. But I wanted to tell you, you may know that I did that drawing for the front of John Keysweater's book about Joe Nuxall, and John said, "What can I pay you for this?" I said, "John, we're friends." He said, "I don't want money, but I would. What I am doing is trying to complete my collection of Reds players from that year." And I told him the ones I didn't have. And unfortunately, one of them was Pete Rose, which was, I think they call that his rookie card. I think the previous year he had appeared in one of those little circles on the Topps cards of up and coming rookies. Okay. But the what I think is still considered his rookie card was this year, and I didn't have it. And that's what John paid me for that cover. He gave me the Pete Rose card, which I now keep special on my mantle. I just thought that was the coolest deal in the world to get that for a drawing.
That's awesome. Now I feel like a complete cheapskate because we're not paying anything for this. But
Jim, did anybody
don't have that Hannes Wagner card yet?
Jim, did any of the athletes you portrayed in your cartoons ever take offense at them or give you any kind of pushback? Because you did some, sort of edgy cartoons sometimes.
Yeah. I actually didn't intersect much with the sports world other than drawing about it. I never been in the press box. I've never thrown out the first pitch. I've never really been invited anywhere in there much. So this peek behind the scenes at spring training has been my first time to actually be around anyone. And as you may know, if you've ever gotten to do that, you kind of keep your distance. Some folks are very kind. Shin-Soo Choo was super nice to us, but others, I saw Joey Votto and I really wanted to say something meaningful to him, but I love Joey Votto in every way, but he kind of gave off this air like I'm working, I'm not going to be out here to socialize. And so I respected that, but I would love to say that I knew any of those folks. The closest, and it's meaningful. Johnny Bench was very kind to me. He asked me to do a couple of drawings for him, which I did. Don't remember much about those. But he then, when he went into the Hall of Fame, gave me a jacket that I think he had made up for the occasion, a series of jackets, and he gave me one of those, which was really an amazing thing. And he seems to know me. When I see him from a distance at spring training and wave, he waves back with a meaningful, hello. So I'm really excited about that little connection. But no, I can't remember any. I did get a call from Marge Schott once after they won the World Series. I don't know why. I was in my office late at night, and she called me at my office and really just had a series of complaints about life that she kind of laid on me, and I don't know. I just listened.
Wow. Did she complain about? I mean, the way you drew her, it was like
that too.
Cigarettes coming out of every orifice. I mean, which just
well, I mean, I won't say I was always fair. I don't know if I was always fair, but look, she was for a while a kind of a lovable comic figure, and then it got darker than that.
Yeah.
And you got to be honest, and at least I felt I needed to be honest, and so yeah, I mean, she said some things that were pretty vile, and I drove out those too.
Yeah. Well, you had that drawing with Shotzi cleaning up after her, which I thought was a good one. But I did want to ask you this, Jim, and I'm thinking about this. I feel like, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but it feels sometimes like Cincinnati, when they really adopt somebody or just sort of have a relationship, and I would put Pete in there, I'd put Marge Schott in there, I'd put maybe Bob Huggins in there. It's almost like there's a segment of the population that just gives them a pat. It's like, hey, that's our gal, that's our guy, and we don't want to hear anything about it. And I don't know if Cincinnati's unique that way or not, but I just find that really, really interesting to me. And I just wondered if you observed that at all.
My observation about that would be that we are a very small market team, and I'm not just talking about attendance or whatever. I think we know somewhere down in our cells that we are, one of the smaller cities to have a team, and we can't really compete for, Mookie Betts or Shohei Ohtani and things like that. We just know that, and it's like growing up in middle class. You're never going to have a in-ground swimming pool in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy. I listen to all the national sportscasts, and I always think, man, you just don't talk about us very much. And so I think that's what maybe is at work, is like, yeah, we're just kind of hanging on here, but we're proud, and damn it, we're going to be noticed, and we're going to stick together. And that, I think that might be kind of the spirit behind some of what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's right. And I think that is there's a bond, I think, with the city and the Reds, and we just all, we feel it so strongly, and that's kind of what this podcast is about. Just talking to people who share that with us. So it's
I love that you're doing this. Yeah,
we love it too. We love it too. So hey, we're running up on time. And one of the questions that we've asked each other is, what would you give for a Reds championship? Would you give up that Pete Rose card for a Reds championship?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I guess I would if that helped in some way. Yeah, I would. On my bucket list, my wife is always saying, "What's on your bucket list? You want to go to Ireland? You want to?" No, not really. I mean, I've been around. I've seen a lot. My bucket list is, I'd love to be sitting next to my brother in Great American Ballpark watching a World Series game, and that would be enough for me. I don't know. You think we're going to do it?
Sure hope so. It's tough. It's hard, but I do think the talent's there. I mean, and if they can come through, and crazy things happen. You never know. We didn't expect it in 1990, really. And, I think that 2010 was a young team coming together. So,
yeah. God, they're fun to watch, aren't they?
They're so much fun to watch.
It's so much fun. And if they can do it, God bless them. I hope they can. I will only be sorry that Joey isn't on the team anymore when they do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way. What a class guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And a great player. Well, Jim, we thank you so much for taking the time. I was really I know Randy and I were both really looking forward to this, and it has exceeded expectations. So.
Well, so much fun. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Jim, I think I can say this on behalf of all Cincinnatians. We know Jim Borgman. We love Jim Borgman. You've really contributed a lot to our city. So thank you very much.
That's very touching. Thank you, Randy. I like to think so. I hope so. It's always a surprise that people still remember some of those old cartoons.
They are unforgettable, many of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys. All right.
Standing ovation. Cincinnati, one and two, and the lady, 1, 2, 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.